Do you have players that play both ways on offense and on defense? If so, they're probably gassed in the fourth quarter. In this video, we're going to show you different ways you can save your players' legs through practice and through the game to keep them fresh for the fourth quarter. Now to start, let's get some quick wins by fixing just your overall structure. How are you using your first half timeouts? Too often, coaches will only use timeouts when the defense is getting gashed or if someone's not lined up properly. But we can be a little bit more strategic in how we use them. For example, we have a good amount of our players that play both ways. This ranges from linemen all the way down to skill players. And we throw the ball a ton, and we expect our X and Z receivers to stretch their routes down the field and also play man coverage. Well, this results in them getting gassed out pretty quickly. So what we strategically did was we split the game essentially into 4 6-minute periods. So we play by NFHS rules. So the first 6 minutes is essentially one quarter. The next 6 is another quarter. So if you look at splitting the first half into 4 quarters, it's 6 minutes, 6 minutes, and then the end of the first quarter. And then obviously the second quarter begins. We call a timeout at the end of 6. And then, of course, at the end is when you go into halftime. So we think about playing the first half in quarters, not necessarily playing the entire first quarter and then the entire second quarter. Now, this would give the offense and the defense one emergency timeout, but too often when I talk to coaches, they go into half with 1 or 2 timeouts left or don't use those timeouts until it's 2 minutes left in the second quarter. So what we're trying to do is we're really trying to use those timeouts to our advantage to make sure our guys are gassed up properly. So by the time they hit the third and fourth quarter, their legs are a little bit more fresh as opposed to just playing 12 minutes straight and then another 12 minutes straight. And by the time they're at halftime, they're all gassed out. So this is just one way to think about like how you can strategically use your first half timeouts. Second half, we don't necessarily recommend this just because you're going to need those timeouts at the end of the game and you don't want to have nothing. But the first half timeouts, realistically, you want to use those to try to help your players out, especially if you have two-way players. It's the easiest way to re-gas them up. And next, let's look at your quarterback and wide receiver situation. This is something that we've actually been looking a ton into. So let's do some simple math here. If your quarterback runs to the sideline every single play to get the call, he's running on average about 50 yards a play, 25 yards to the sideline and about 25 yards back to the huddle. Now, how does this all add up? So if you do the math, there's an average of 40 offensive plays in a football game. So if he's running to the sideline 40 times, running 50 yards a pop, he's running 2,000 yards on average. So let's convert that to feet. That's 6,000 feet because 3 feet in a yard. And if he's running about 1.14 miles just getting plays in. So if your quarterback is playing both ways, that's a long way to run just to get plays. So it's something you need to think about, especially with your wide receivers too. If they're running back to the huddle and then running all the way back to the sideline, they're essentially taking the same track that the quarterback's taking, and that's extra stress on their legs as well. Next, let's look at how you're practicing. A good amount of times, coaches will just line up at the end of practice and run 8 to 10 sprints, maybe cause a little bit of hype at the end. But that's all they're doing is just the wind sprints at the end for conditioning. If this is all the conditioning that you're doing, your players' bodies aren't prepared for game day. Let me explain. Game days are a physical beatdown on the body. So this requires strenuous push, pull, full speed running. Practice should somewhat mimic that. There needs to be constant movement and there needs to be constant push and pull throughout the entire practice to generate force on the body. And this is how we closely link it up to an actual game. Now, remember, the game is a roller coaster of strenuous activity, right? Like you may be pushing and pulling hard for 2, 3 plays in a row, and then a lineman may not touch a defensive end on the play away, so he's going to be push-pulling and then obviously relaxing. And this is why we're huge fans of having a practice schedule that has shorter periods so the players are always moving. If you just have one long practice with long periods, guys aren't moving as much and they're just sitting still. So we use practice templates like these, which you can find this practice template in the link below. But essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to create as many periods as we can to get the most out of them, but also keep our players moving. And you have a coach blow a whistle or blow an air horn to keep the practice moving, keep the tempo up. But again, we want our bodies to exert that force, moving as fast as we can at times, and then being able to tone it down and then moving fast again. Football is all about short bursts. Now, the next thing to think about is how you're giving your offense and defensive linemen breaks. Naturally, they're bigger players. They're going to need more fuel to gas them back up. So think about how you're getting them breaks, but also how you're getting your backups in the game. And we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by doing this. So let me show you an example here. So if we have a defensive lineman, maybe our defensive ends that are also starting as offensive linemen for us, can we find a way to get them off the field on 3rd down and even 4th down? So the best way to do this, in our opinion, is if you have backup linebackers, because usually linebackers are great at hunting the football. They're great at getting off blocks. But if you have a 2 linebacker, 3 linebacker system, We found that getting linemen off the field on defense and bringing in those backup linebackers on third down and even fourth down for special teams, you'll save on average 20-ish plays for those defensive linemen that are also offensive linemen. And this goes a long way, especially if you're in a tight game into the fourth quarter. So this is what we found to help players become more fresh for the third and fourth quarter. Of course, how you practice and then how you strategize for the game obviously helps. But if you want to learn how to actually build out these practice plans, make sure to check out this video right here, and we'll see you over there.